Hey, welcome to the channel, friends. As always, it's good to see you. So Stoker here, and today we're going to be talking a lot about knives. About 6 things I need you to consider if you're planning on using, buying, maintaining a knife. And if you're asking yourself, what kind of knife are we talking about? I'm talking about all kinds of knives. Talking about your folding pocket knife, the knife on your Gerber or your Leatherman, the steak knife, the box cutter, the kitchen knife, your wood carving knife, your big arse knife, your bushcrafting knife, hell, even the kitchen knife. You put it down or the stoker gets it. I know. I'm a little off the chain here. And I'll leave some links down in the description below for some of the things that you can put in your kit bag, whether it's sharpening stuff or even a few knives that I like and I prefer. But you know, the first thing I think we all really need to get in our heads is there are all kinds of knives, and they are not all interchangeable. Man, I just showed you a ton of knives that are out there, and each one has a unique purpose. And sometimes I think we look at knives like we do with the Gerber or the multi-tool or the Leatherman. If you're one of those dudes, which one do you prefer, the Gerber or the Leatherman? Man, it's a huge debate in some circles. But, you know, so we go out and we buy a knife, and we think that this knife can do everything. And while every knife can cut and they can slice, I don't know that there's a perfect knife for everything that we can do. So tip number 1 is know the purpose of the knife that you're trying to get and find a good knife to meet that purpose. Second, I need you not to buy a knife if you don't know what kind of material it's made of. So this is tip number 2. If I was going to go out and I was going to try to get a bushcrafting knife, I'm not going to buy one that's made out of the exact same material as my butter knife is made out of, man. I mean, no. Conversely, I don't need a butter knife made out of high-grade quality Damascus steel. Although that'd be pretty dope. And so there are all kinds of materials that knives are made out of. Typically, it's going to be some form of stainless steel, or it's going to be, you know, more of just a straight-up carbon steel. You do have some spring steels that are out there, but those are going to be a lot less common. Stuff like stainless steel is typically going to be softer and a lot harder to sharpen and to maintain, whereas your higher grade carbon steel is going to be a little bit harder of a material, and it's going to be, in some cases, it's going to be harder to sharpen, but it's going to maintain its edge a lot longer. So get in and learn about each one and just know what you're getting, know what you're buying into, because you don't want to spend, you know, $200 on a nice chef knife that's made out of a piece of crap steel. And so tip number 3 is you need to learn how to sharpen your knife. Why is that? Because your knife is dull. Man, I'm telling you right now, the knives that you have are probably dull, especially if you don't sharpen and strop on a regular basis. So when it comes to sharpening a knives, man, there are all kinds of tools and things we can put in our kit bag, whether we're trying to just use a ceramic stone, good Arkansas oil stone, or even a Japanese whetstone. But whatever you do, don't be afraid of sharpening your knife, man. It's not a big deal to have to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes on a knife. But I can promise you, you need to sharpen your knife, and it's for a couple reasons, right? So the first reason is that dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife, especially if it comes to nicking yourself. 2, having a sharp knife makes it easier to do the things that you want that knife to do. Now, how does your knife get dull? Well, it gets dull by making it do the things that you want it to do. Every time you cut something, it's dulling your knife. It's taking away the edge. The worst things to cut are things like cardboard or paper, wood, or sticking your knife in the dirt. And the only time you want to do that is if you're playing Mumbly Peg, and I'll show you how to play after the video. Right, so the next step is to make sure you know how to clean your knife. Now, the last thing you want to do is put your nice quality knives into the dishwasher and run it like it's another pot or pan. I know your knife is a quality tool and instrument. You need to make sure you wash that thing by hand. And the next thing we need to know with how to use our knife, and maybe these aren't actually in order, you know, maybe some are should be higher in the order of the precedence than another. These aren't counting down in order. These are just 6 things I need you to know about your knife. And the next one is you need to know how to use your knife. So if you just picked up like a wood carving knife, you need to know a couple things, and this is going to apply to no matter what kind of knife you have, and this is to make sure that you A, have a good grip on your knife, and B, don't stab yourself in the eye or the throat or the mouth or the finger or the leg, or don't stab anybody else either. Don't draw knives towards your body, right? That's a sure way to make sure that you do cut yourself. Always cut away from yourself. If you have to pass a knife on to somebody else, always make sure that you don't go blade first, like, hey, can I borrow your knife? Yeah, sure thing, man, no problem. Here you go. See, this is not how you pass a knife. You want to make sure that the tip is towards you as the person who's passing it off, because you have the most positive control, with the blade facing away from you. Not towards your hand like this, but away from you like that. Now the person who's receiving the knife can take it by the handle and bam, money in the bank. There's another one for your kit bag, money in the bank. And you can pass this knife along safely without stabbing each other in the hand or slicing wrists. Now let's say you're in the kitchen, you're trying to chop up some meat, some veggies, or some vegetables, whatever the case is. You want to make sure that as you're slicing down, it's okay to slice down and for your knife to hit the cutting board, but you don't want to drag your knife on the cutting board, because you're dragging your knife on a solid surface, and that's doing that. You can imagine if you just set this down and you're going back and forth, you're going to dull your edge quicker than anything that you can imagine. Right? And one of the things that we want to make sure that we don't use our knives for is cutting cardboard. That's why they have box cutters, because cardboard is one of the worst things for a knife. Wood is one of the worst things for a knife, and that's why we have razor blades in our box cutters, because these things are like a dime a dozen. So if this thing goes dull on you, you just switch it out and get a new one. Now, the last thing I need you to learn how to do if you're using knives, and this is really important, you need to learn some basic first aid. And I'm a testament of somebody who's learned this the hard way. Man, you gotta listen to me, man. You're gonna cut yourself. It's not gonna be intentional. You're gonna just be playing with your knife. You're gonna be chopping something in the kitchen, and something's gonna happen, and you are gonna accidentally cut yourself. The good thing is, I guess I do still have all 10 fingers and toes, so although I have nicked myself, I'm not doing all that bad. Hey, so that's gonna wrap it up, man. That's the top 6 things I need you to consider when you're purchasing, using, or maintaining a knife. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about this top 6 list, and we'll keep this conversation rolling. Add some things down in below, whether it's a favorite knife that you have, a favorite technique when you're using a knife, whatever the case is. Leave some comments down below, and we'll just I'll respond back to you, and somebody else is going to learn from you. I'm going to learn from you. We're going to keep learning from each other. And as always, until then, we'll see you. Oh, wait. It's time to play Mumbly Peg. So Mumbly Peg is a really old game, and it's played by dropping your knife from your person and having the blade stick into the ground. And what you want to do is, from head to toe, you want to force your knife to do a twist and then drop into the ground. So, for example, I could go from my hat. I could go from my chin. Go from my shoulder. And my elbow. My chest. Even go from your knee. And so you're playing this with a friend, you go on back and forth, and whoever gets all the way down to the feet first wins. All right, so there you go, everybody, man. We'll see you.